Good evening, everyone. We're FundSeer. My name is Xiaohan. His name is Mohammed. Access to healthcare is a fundamental right, but financial barriers often impede timely medical interventions. Crowdfunding campaigns has emerged as a potential solution. So our project FundSeer investigate the impact of campaigns narrative on the success of medical crowdfunding campaigns. By success, I mean whether the raised amount has exceeded or reached the goal amount. So predicting analysis like this can highlight campaigns that might struggle to reach their goals, allowing for early intervention, such as additional marketing by rephrasing their narrative or seeking support from the crowdfunding platform to increase their chance of success. For the data and processing, there are mainly 4 stages. In the first stage, we collect the URLs from Wayback Machine and GoFundMe. And then we can collect the data from the collected URLs and do an initial filter using Beautiful Soup. And then after that, we gain some statistics to know, to have some idea to how do we use the data. And before we feed the data into the model, we do some final processing like tokenization or padding. So specifically during the processing, we only keep the medical campaigns since that's our focus here. We keep campaigns using US dollars only and English only for consistency. At the end, after processing 1.4 million URLs, we have 80,000 data. And we split the data into training, validation, and test in an 80%, 10%, 10% ratio. We choose Glob word embedding model to serve as the fundamental backbone for our first baseline model, which involved calculating the average embeddings associated with the words found in the campaign's narrative. Following this, a logistic regression classifier was employed. And in addition, a 1-layer long short-term memory network succeeded by a linear layer was implemented as a secondary baseline model to access the impact of employing a sequential model.
So after we extract the 5 features for each campaign, we then combine the goal amount and the description and feed that to our main model, which is T5. And the model job here is to try to predict the successfulness of a campaign. So here are the models that we tried. So we see that the best performing model is T5 small by only training the classification head, and this yielded around 73% accuracy on the test set. We believe like a small amount or a small model like Albert Bayes, which has only like around 12 million parameter, can actually perform well with around 71 accuracy on the test set. And we believe that adding the goal by doing like different ablation studies, we conducted that adding the goal can be beneficial for the language models, and it can increase the accuracy by 6%. Comparing between end-to-end training to the models and only fine-tuning the classification head, we found that there is not sufficient increase by training the models from end-to-end. And then we're doing some experiments on T5 base. However, we didn't have much resources to continue on experimenting with the model, and hence we believe that T5 base can actually be beneficial and produce better performance than T5 small. So here are a couple of samples that were correctly classified by the model. We can see that, so generally speaking, people tend to be more compassionate and fund more the severe medical cases in comparison to other cases. For example, in our test set, we had like many campaigns that exceeded 100K fundraised, and the majority of them had either the word surgery or the word cancer. So we can see that from the second example here, it's related to vision surgery, and this is why it was successful from our point of view. And for the first one, it was related to addiction. So here are a couple of samples that were misclassified by the model. So by analyzing the first campaign, we found that it started with telling some background about the patient, as she was diagnosed at first with an autoimmune disease, and then after a while she was diagnosed with cancer. So maybe this shift in the narrative actually confused the model. And for the second example, we can see that there are different terminologies related to breast cancer as mammogram or biopsy. So this is why the model predicted it to be successful. However, it wasn't. And this is why maybe because the title for this campaign was just the patient's name or the person's name and 5. That's it. And we believe one of the most contributing factors to the success of a campaign is to have a compelling title, which can better market a campaign. So This task is more complex when we compare it to sentiment analysis, for example, since there is no keywords that can reflect, let's say, the sentiment or the class of a campaign. In fact, if we look at the cloud, the word clouds for both models, they actually have so the most frequent words are actually almost the same for both classes. And we believe that adding more metadata or adding more modalities in general, like the metadata and the images for the campaigns, can be beneficial for the model and help it to better perform this task. And by adding other categories other than the medical campaign, the model can be generalized. It can generalize better, as was tested by many studies, and this is one of them. Thank you so much.